Hey there, it's your host Mara Glatzel, and you are listening to Even Here, Even Now, a podcast where we are devoted to sharing frank conversations and true stories about what it means to stay by your own side and meet your needs consistently, messily, and sustainably. Now, on to today's show. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Even Here, Even Now. I am so excited to be here today. I feel like I always say this, but I only invite the most awesome guests on. So I am always so excited to be here with Carmen Spagnola to talk about her work, which, you know, if you hang out with me, you know that I talk about her and her work all the time. But specifically to talk about a new book that she has coming out that I'm so stoked for all of us to have and to read. Before we started recording, I was saying I've already ordered multiple copies for the people in my life. And, you know, before I even let you introduce your work, Carmen, I just want to say that, you know, over the last couple of years I've worked with Carmen, I've taken all of her new method facilitation trainings, level 1, 2, and 3. And like, it has made my life so much better and so much richer. And I feel like all of my programs, all of my clients, all of my friends, my kids, all benefit from the many things that I have learned from you. And so I'm so excited to have you here so all of us can learn from you together.
Gosh, Mara, thank you. I feel very, praise from the praiseworthy is beyond all reward. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, the facilitation training is one of those things where I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to train you. But basically it's like, I'm going to teach you everything I know, and I'm trying to package it into a framework. But it isn't just for facilitators. It's, it's for all kinds of folks, because it's so much about, well, what the book is about, really.
Yeah, no, we can talk about that in due time. We'll discuss this. But first, just give us an overview. Tell us what you're about. Tell us what your work is. And in particular, we like to know why you do what you do.
Oh, I can lead with the why. I've been a person tracking collapse for a long time. And so when I'm talking about collapse, I'm talking about the converging emergencies of large-scale cooperation dilemmas for which there are no solutions. There's only responses. And so all of my work is about making us all more resilient in collapse times. And there's the larger global and societal levels of collapse, but I think my work scales from the macro to the micro. So facilitation is a collapse skill. Connection is a collapse skill. Somatics is a collapse skill. Being trauma aware and trauma informed and trauma sensitive is a collapse skill. Being able to get a sense of neurotypes and neuro differences and create neuro-affirming environments, that's a collapse skill. So my why is, I believe that we are in the long descent of deindustrialization, and that this is an intergenerational project. Is how are we going to equip people to be able to cope physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually for the world that we have, rather than the one that capitalist, imperialist, white supremacist patriarchy has tried to promise us or sell us, even though they know it's not a real thing anymore. So that's my why. And so I do that through somatic attachment repatterning, which is something that I teach and something that I presence in the Numinous Network, even in my books. So I have 3 books. One is a cookbook about the Wheel of the Year. One is called The Spirited Kitchen. The other one is Spells for the Apocalypse, which is all rituals and magic for collapse times. And then, this third one, How to Connect. So, I take somatics and attachment and trauma awareness and more centering neuro-affirming environments. I'm trying to package those things all together so that all the work I do leads with justice, leads with truth, leads with liberation, leads with healing.
Yeah. No, it's interesting hearing you explain it because as I, said at the top of the call, it's like there's not one part of my life that this work has not touched. And partially it's I take me everywhere that I go and being more in touch with my nervous system, I bring that with me to all of my environments. But I do notice that it's in my formal work here, but it's also in my work as a select board member here in my town. I facilitate conversations of all sorts. I'm in, all of these little, like when I'm at my kids' school or, all of these little pockets. And really the overarching framework that you offer is it's so human. It's so human. I think I told you this once that when I was in social work school, I was like an I had an attachment specialization. I absorbed like some total of none of what I was. I mean, I absorbed some of it, but the way that I was being taught was so clinical and not human. And it was really hard to grasp. And I remember, we would do these graphs where we would have to like track the attunement of our sessions with our clients. And I was like, I mean, as a person who talks to people for a living, I genuinely did not understand how to understand these things. And this is why I love that, your new book, we're going to talk today about contact nutrition. This is one of the most useful tools. If you are a person who wants to be with people, period, I think you need this book. I mean, I think you need this book. And so I'm wondering if you can, because I know most people hear contact nutrition, they don't know what that means. Can you give us the like kind of
30-second thing?
Notes? Tell us about contact nutrition.
Yeah, contact nutrition is the how of secure attachment. It's the things you do to earn secure attachment, and actually it comes down to basically 5 things. When you're talking about attunement, there's like 5 pathways for attunement. The first is kind eyes, having eyes that can be expressive, and where our mirror neurons are like tracking another, like we're bouncing a beam gleam back and forth. That's a skill, and that's a skill that many of us have to learn to build. If we didn't get a lot of kind eyes, it's kind of like, oh, I grew up in, an environment that was a food desert, let's say. It's like you only know how to eat certain things. Well, you get older and you're like, oh, maybe I could expand my palate. Developing the capacity for small amounts, even small amounts of sustained, warm eye contact, that's the first one. Vocal prosody is the second pathway, which is just emotional resonance in the voice. Again, lots of us have experienced either diminishment or silencing, or just like there's a lot of fear around using our voice, or there's a lot of punishment around using the voice. Some of us just kind of have a more flat affect. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but what I'm saying is that if you're trying to connect with somebody who is having trouble understanding your point, you could, if you wanted to, expand your capacity for emotional resonance through the voice. So kind eyes, vocal prosody. Then there's 3 others. There's safe touch, there's shared rhythm, and there's ingestion behaviors together like eating and drinking. So in the book, I talk about these 5 pathways that sound so simple, but also like actually living in white supremacist, late stage racialized capitalism, all of these conditions of oppression mean that most of us are walking around with quite a lot of trauma. And so they're actually a lot harder than they sound. and I think we have a lot more awareness now than when I was first training in attachment. We probably both started 20 years ago or whatever. Now we recognize that some people's challenge to attach is a neurodivergence. For others, it could be trauma. trauma and neurodivergence can actually present pretty similarly. And so it's kind of like, I think in the recent, I don't know, 20, 30 years of relationship studies, we've really looked at like communication and personal growth and like doing a lot of work on ourselves. And I think actually in this stage, in collapse times, we're all pretty, can I swear, we're pretty fucking burnt out. Like, we're pretty fucking tired. I actually can't read 3, 5, 10 attachment books to try to understand what's going wrong in my relationship. And if it doesn't work at this very fundamental meat and potatoes, like me and you, you know, person to person, nervous system to nervous system, if we can't find a rhythm with each other, I just don't have the energy. It's just not sustainable for me to try to, you know, figure this out. And you know, it costs us a lot. It costs us a lot to stay in relationships where there's chronic misattunement, etc. So contact nutrition is the building blocks of secure attachment. It's the things that you do on a day-to-day basis, these micro moments that either connect or create distance. And what I'm hoping to do in the book is help people recognize that if you don't have some kind of rhythm and like shared rhythm and some kind of shared nonverbal language, then at the very least you can discern this may not be a viable relationship for me. And this book is going to help you develop the support network to help you find a more appropriate relationship or a more viable relationship. So it's not about communication. It's not about knowing your attachment style. It's not about getting to the bottom of your trauma. None of us are going to get to the bottom of it, especially not in collapse times. So we need to kind of come back to very basic brass tacks of like, how do mammals signal safeness? How do mammals have conflict and repair? It's through these, you could call them rituals, these tiny rituals of kind eyes, vocal prosody, safe touch, shared rhythm, ingestion behaviors. Together, those 5 things we call contact nutrition. When I say we, I should say I learned that term from one of my teachers, Diane Poole Heller, who's a great teacher, you know, excellent synthesizer of somatics and attachment and trauma. But as you said, like you went to school and it was an attachment specialty and you like were not getting attachment while you were learning about attachment, right? It's so dissonant. And the thing is, I and many of my colleagues have learned about attachment through kind of this tail end of the heyday of online marketing. And this is kind of where like the collapse lens comes in. I did Marie Forleo's B School. I've had online courses forever, you know, and so online learning, I've been on Zoom since 2014. I'm like a very early adopter. I've been teaching online for, like, I guess a decade, right? And so the challenge with that is that the contact nutrition that we think we're getting is all being funneled. It's like a literal term, right? It's being funneled through capitalism. And this is one of the big challenges with learning about this material, I find, is that it's like, oh, this is just a product. I can just like vending machine, cha-ching, cha-ching. I get the information and then I spit it out with my person. And actually, you need to be with somebody who's like pretty adept at contact nutrition in order to actually reshape your nervous system. You actually do need to teach from someone that you have a relationship, or you have to learn from someone that you have a relationship with, and who that person is willing to become an attachment figure for you, not in like a culty way, but in an accountable way. So it's what I'm hoping is that this book helps people kind of get down to the very basics of attunement, and then maybe look at the current state of their relationships and be like, which ones seem mutual and reciprocal, and like maybe which ones will I withdraw some of my resources from, withdraw some of my time from, so that I can like really focus on quality over here. So anyway, sorry, I'm rambling about contact nutrition now. I can go on for ages.
Well, and I'm thinking about, like where our work kind of dovetails, and something that was such a surprise for me to when I learned about contact nutrition for the first time was to be given language for something that it's not that I necessarily didn't know I needed it, but I judged myself for needing it. I felt like you're a grown up. You don't need people to speak to you with vocal prosody. You don't need who needs kind eyes? Like get it together, Mara. You're an adult. And that it was really an awakening for me to have an understanding of it's not too much to ask for, it's not too much to want, and actually on such a base level, the soft animal of my body requires it. And this is the thing that has been missing from several key relationships in my life. The thing that I was like, it just doesn't feel like you love me. It just doesn't feel like we're in this together. And, I started to kind of notice the instances where it's like you walk in the door, nobody looks up from their phone. You are talking to somebody and they're not looking at you. And of course I have many beloved neurodivergent folks. There are many reasons why maybe we're not looking at each other. Those things happen, but that's very different than I'm low-key dissociating while you're communicating with me. Or I'm not even hip to the tone of voice that I'm using and what impact that might have. And so, and also separately, I had this experience, which would often happen to me, which would be like, I'm fine. And I'm getting kind of a reaction from somebody that I don't expect, right? I'm not quite sure. I didn't track it. Where has this gone awry? Something has occurred where it's like, you are sort of backing up from me like this. And I am thinking for no reason whatsoever. And so it gave this language to a different way to be together. And I think being an mostly anxiously attached person, I have always longed for more connection. And it has been this kind of question mark of, I don't know what to ask for. I don't know what to prioritize. I don't know what to offer or to initiate. And these building blocks started to show what those things were that I had been missing. But it's really vulnerable. It was certainly really vulnerable for me to think I want you to look at me with kind eyes. There was an embarrassment to that, which working with you, really helped me normalize the desire for that. But I'm wondering if you could speak to that a little bit.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I like recovering avoidant here, right? So I completely understand the feeling of giving off a vibe and being like, I'm fine. Why do I keep getting the feedback that I'm so intimidating? and then, I have a beloved respect for resting bitch face. I have really good bitch face game. I think it keeps a lot of us really safe out into the world. So I'm not saying we should try to eliminate that from our repertoire. And if I'm trying to communicate safeness and welcome and invitation to people, I might actually literally have to do some exercises with my face. Really think about awareness in my face and how am I holding my face. I can hear folks right now being like, oh, but I don't want a mask. You know, and absolutely, you want to have high trust relationships where you don't have to mask, right? And that's very important. I'm not saying go out in the world and not be who you are. We don't have to, the pendulum doesn't have to swing so hard between masking and being disingenuous and, letting people into your private world when, it's kind of vulnerable. There's this huge middle ground where we can be like, oh, in this environment, it's safe enough for me to send welcome, inviting signals with a slightly more relaxed face. Like maybe opening my mouth, maybe a little squint at the corner of the eyes and beaming some like enthusiasm towards someone with my eye contact, etc. Right? Or when I'm in conflict with someone. There are times when I'm in conflict and I'm really happy for my bitch face because it's saying a whole bunch of stuff while I'm trying not to like totally be incendiary. I'm trying not to like burn this whole relationship down, but my face is doing a lot of talking. That's great. This is like good attunement. There are other times where I'm really angry and I can't get my vocal prosody under control, but I can at least now have the words to be like, look, I understand I'm being an asshole and I'm really triggered right now and I can't get my tone to come across, but I genuinely don't want to fight with you right now. I'm just so distressed. Like there's a way where we don't have to perform contact nutrition perfectly, but if we have the framework, we can at least share that language and articulate that with our special people, right? So understanding that kind eyes is about mirror neurons. When we see another mammal, if we see a person stub their toe and we go, ouch, oh my gosh, are you okay? You know, that's a whole thing that communicates to someone, I'm tracking you. However, if no one's ever tracked us, or if we were met with diminishment or criticism, like, Mara, you shouldn't need somebody to be like particularly warm or kind to you, you just start to internalize and police that yourself. It also creates our shaping, our nervous system shaping our instinct towards expressing that with other people. It starts to feel very vulnerable to be like, wow, I dig you, I want to be friends, and like really like be effusive with somebody. I totally remember with one of my supervisors, Patty Elledge, when I was getting certified in somatic attachment repatterning, and we were working one-on-one. We kind of moved from like group supervision to one-on-one supervision, and I basically showed up my avoidant self, like internal walls were starting to break down, but I showed up pretty like offensively and was like, first off, I just have to say, Patty, like, thanks so much for taking me on as a client and a mentee. And I will just say straight off the bat, I'm like completely humiliated by how much I like love you. And this is like an awful experience for me, but it's like so rare for me. And I was so totally disarmed when she was like, I love you too, Carmen. I was like, oh my God, stop. It just felt like a full court press of let's not diminish how wonderful and beautiful this is that like you are attaching. And you're trying to be all casual about it. But I am gonna meet you with sweetness and kind eyes and vocal prosody and like maybe even a little safe touch where we were on Zoom, so hand on heart kind of stuff. That's actually what we need for our natural latent capacity for secure attachment to come on, is we do need somebody to respond to us with like, oh look, you're just a little mammal, you're just a little human being, and I'm gonna meet you where you're at, and right now you're actually being really like vulnerable and sweet with me, even though you're trying to come off as quite fortified and defended and like not needing me. I'm not gonna let you do that. And it was a very sweet repatterning for me to be like, oh, you can just be like, wow, I unabashedly want your affection in this maternal kind of way. And for somebody to be like, yeah, you should totally have that. And I think it's beautiful that you want that. And I'm meeting you there. It's like, oh, that's how, that's how we learn attachment, is we actually start to attach. It can be very vulnerable to do with our people, like our householders, if we haven't ever done it before, which is kind of why like a book or a course or something like that you can do together is helpful, because then it's like, okay, now we have a framework, we have some little rituals, like, okay, let's just start with shared rhythm with comings and goings. So, when people enter the room, we're going to down our tools. We're going to put our phone down or put the knife down if we're chopping vegetables, or we're going to, we're going to just pause and look. Be like, hey, how was your day? Even just something small. Oh, hey, how was the market? Just a small thing of like, I'm acknowledging you. That is like oxygen for our nervous system, to be like, oh, I exist and you're affirming my existence. What a wonderful experience, Now, not everybody's going to need that. Some people, as you say, like there can be neurotypes who actually love when somebody comes in and they just do like, hey, a quick nod, and like literally that's it. And then they don't want their peace disturbed, or they're both going to be on headphones or whatever. But the key there is that you have some shared rhythm. You have a shared understanding, and you have these like little micro rituals that are infused with so much meaning. And so you can, find your compatibility. My book isn't about compatibility, but through the framework of understanding, okay, contact nutrition, it's these 5 things: kind eyes, vocal prosody, safe touch, shared rhythm, ingestion behaviors. We're going to go through those things. If we're not wanting the same kind of contact nutrition, because not everybody wants the same type or amount or frequency or intensity or duration, then maybe we're actually not that compatible. We need to find, or we have to like find other relationships to complement this one, because we love this person, we want to be with this person, but our neurotypes mean like they absolutely cannot do kind eyes, or they don't want touch, right? And I really need it. Okay, so then I need to look for other sources of the things that I need, because as a mammal, it's kind of like, we often say contact nutrition is to secure attachment, what vitamins are to a healthy diet. Everybody's going to need a different mix of nutrition, but we all need to be nourished, right?
Yeah, I love the idea of casting a wider net for getting your needs met. Certainly for everyone who is tuning in and listening, it's like that really poisonous and toxic concept of this one person is supposed to meet all of our needs is such a setup for so many reasons. And yet it is bandied about, continues to be bandied about. And, I think even compatibility, that we're either compatible or we're not, that, for me, I like to think about taking responsibility for my needs as having a really curious and creative approach to how I'm getting my needs met. Because sometimes I'll think like, when it comes to the kind eyes, there's something so maternal about that in my romantic relationships, I want that. I like that for sure. But what I really want it from are my elders. Who I really want it from are people who, it's like, my grandmothers would have certainly looked at me like that. They're no longer alive. But I really I want it from older folks in my life who just have this feeling like how I feel my ancestors feel about me. Just like, you are such a miracle. You're doing the thing we always wanted for you. And I remember after learning about contact nutrition from you, I go to Zumba at the Council on Aging, like right over the hill here. I'm always the youngest person in the class. And I have befriended all of my diehard Zumba friends. And, they like the way they'll be like, you did all of the steps just perfectly. And it's like, I just started to have an understanding of what I really need are people who are elders to me to look at me in a loving and approving way. There is a part of me that just yearns for that. And I was so trying to get that need met kind of in my primary relationship, but not really understanding it. And once I was able to know more about the nuance, I was able to realize like it's actually available to me in so many places.
Totally.
I do a lot of volunteering for the town. Most of the people who volunteer are people who are retired. So they're, older than me by several decades. And it is like there is an eldership that is happening. There is an availability of that piece. And now that I have identified it and learned mostly that it's nothing that I need to be embarrassed about, it's like I can be open to receiving that in a multitude of places. And I just think there's so much to learn about yourself here. And it takes time, right? I mean, I took those trainings with you over a multitude of years. I think it was like 2 to 3 years. And I want to say in those 2 to 3 years, my life changed in so many ways, but this was a primary piece of it. Was just a yearning to connect, but a misunderstanding of how that happens, which sounds so basic.
But it totally makes sense to me, right? Like all of us, especially like Gen Xers or elder millennials who have received so much of our self-help. Like, I grew up on like Donahue and Oprah and that kind of stuff, right? And then it was self-help books, Oprah's book club, self-help books, nonfiction, right? And so you get the theory of emotions or attachment or whatever it is, but the actual implementation would come in kind of, again, like highly marketable sound bites. And so there is this shift, I think, that is perfect for the times we live in, where we're like, yeah, you know what, I can understand a lot on the mental level, but that is not the same as processing my emotions. That's just like processing my emotions on the mental level. But to be able to come into that soft animal of your body and just want what you want, this is where like your book and my book, I think, just like beautifully, they're like a nice little set, because not being embarrassed of wanting what you want as a mammal who literally survives in a sort of tribal society, and like what are the bonds of tribal society? They don't have to know about attachment theory. They're just like, this is how it works. And it's okay for us to have an Eeyore in our group and a Tigger in our group, and we know that they all need different things, and yet they can all belong. So yeah, this framework, I think, helps us get back to something like very animal, very primal, very mammalian, that these are just needs that we have, just like breathing, just like good sleep, just like, nutrition. It's and we don't have to theorize about it too much. And I think a lot of what the challenges are of when you're a person who's highly literate around attachment theory or like relationship rescue stuff is that you actually then spend a lot of time analyzing words or analyzing behavior and ruminating over, they said this and they did that and what did they mean, and and it's like, you know what, let's just give our brains, and like we don't have enough brain glucose for this, let's just like slow down the mental chatter and the analysis and the assessment, and just come into like, is this feeling good and attuned? And if it isn't in this kind of way, does it still work in others? Can I get that elsewhere? I love what you said about needing it from elders. This is why I love going to the Quaker meeting when I was attending. It's just like, oh man, you find an elder who, has like a easy laugh and an easy warm smile and some smiling eyes, and I mean, that can make up for so much, right? It makes up for so much. Like, and I love how your book really helps us recognize, like, we don't have to be embarrassed to want what we want and need what we need. It's not needy to be like, hi, I'm a mammal and I need actually, some eye contact or some touch or at least some consistency and rhythm. Or maybe we need to like eat together in a way that isn't also highly traumatizing so that I can't digest my food or absorb its nutrients. Like, can we just come together and be mammals and be humans in a nice, comfortably connected and attuned way without having to overanalyze everything?
Yeah, it makes me think about kind of like so-called attachment parenting, and, how having an understanding of contact nutrition has impacted my parenting style in such an incredible way, and just like realizing, and even the things that I teach my kids, because I have my 10-year-old is very similar to me. She's a lot. And she just really has a deep desire to connect. Her social graces she's just like always doing kind of the most to connect. And she can be very harsh. And so the other day I was having this conversation with her, around kind of like, if you're having a conversation with someone and you get this response back that's not what you expect, because she would say, I didn't realize my voice was doing that. I don't realize that I have a tone. I'm not paying attention to my tone. And it's true. She is on another far, far, far away planet doing completely other things while her sister's asking, like, can I borrow your towel? And she's yelling at her sister. And so even just to have those kinds of simple tools that are so accessible, I know I've seen you say online, like, this is the book that you give to the person who does not want to read a book about attachment. And I think we all need, I was at a table the other day of several friends of mine, all men, and they were saying, like, do we need to be emotionally available? Do we need to be knowing about attachment? I was like, 100% yes, and I have the book for you. And so I'm curious about two things. I'll start with this, which is, of the 5 pieces of contact nutrition that you shared, what is most important for you at this moment in your life? Like, what's like a need there that you prioritize on a daily basis?
Oh my gosh, great question, because it does shift, right? Like our preferred forms of contact nutrition definitely shift and change, right? They're not static. It's summer, and we are on a farm that we are trying to restore and rehabilitate, regenerative agriculture farm. Plus I have multiple businesses and this book. And so the need for shared rhythm is extremely high right now, because I'm so outwardly focused. I'm so aligned and attuned with the season of summer, which is like, things are, growing. Things need my attention. I'm tending the animals. I'm tending the flowers. I'm getting ready for market. I'm harvesting garbage. Like, I'm very outward focused and facing. And yet I have a need to have periods of rest. It's kind of like I wake up, I do the first shift on the farm. I want to know that, like, my coffee is going to be ready at that time. My husband's going to be out of the house by the time I come back to work at the computer. Like, I need for our schedules and rhythm to be highly attuned. So, he knows that I need quiet in the house because I'm doing an interview. So he's got the air conditioning ready and going by the time I get back in from doing the animals. He's got, he's vacated at the right time. That kind of sense of tracking, here's the rhythm, because I don't have time to dialogue about things. I've got too many details in my mind. And I want to know that our bond is secure, so that if we're both super busy doing other things, we know we're going to reconnect at about 3:00 when it is too hot. It's too hot for us to be working anymore. My brain is tired now. We need siesta for a couple hours. And then we're in the rhythm of, like, okay, we're eating supper a lot later. So, because we're going to go back out and do, like, the night shift on the farm, because it's so nice to be weeding and harvesting at like 6:00 when the sun is over the hill. And we're out there working until like 9 at night, 9:30 until it's dark, finish with the animals, come back late dinner. Nobody's complaining. Everybody's like, oh, we must all be hungry. It's a totally different rhythm from 5 months ago. It's a totally different feel of fullness in our lives, and it would be untenable if we didn't have some shared rhythms around, like, we're all going to down tools, we're all going to stop activities, we know we're going to go down to the creek we're going to have like a 2-hour break, and there's like no Wi-Fi down there. So we're just going to go to the creek, wash the dust off, and be quiet and talk. And that's when we're going to connect. You know, it's not like the kind of, I don't know, winter mornings where it's like, oh, make sure you give me a kiss before you leave bed or whatever. It's like, no, it's summer. We're busy. I'm out there. I'm, you know. So that ability to sort of shift and track, like, oh, this is what they're doing right now. And Ruben's going to need my help because it's garlic harvest time. I need to do less with one-on-one because I need to be in the fields more. Just tracking our shared rhythm around what season we're in. It eliminates so much unnecessary dialogue and potential for miscommunication. It's like, no, we are on it. I'm tracking that. I'm married to a farmer, so this is his high stress time. And I am his helpmate. And at the same time, we know that, like, come fall, when my book comes out, Carmen's back inside. She's like a, computer worker again. So shared rhythm has been getting really, really good at picking up on each other's rhythms and respecting, like, kind of how we can support each other's rhythm and still have the times when we know we're going to come together into connection and attunement. Sometimes we have a lot of talking in our 2-hour break, and sometimes I'm like, I need an hour-long nap, and it's fine. But yeah, shared rhythm has been the biggest game changer, I would say. It also helps with, like, my husband needs a lot more touch than I do. Quelle surprise in a cis hetero relationship. What a surprise. My cis male partner wants more touch. But also, I can feel now my own sense of, like, I don't know, it's like I can sense the distance, and I don't like it either, because I'm more connected to my soft animal that doesn't feel like I have lots of pressure for touch. Like, with enough time working through, like, what's my preferred contact nutrition, what's his preferred contact nutrition, can he get it elsewhere, can I get mine elsewhere, where does it come together? Now that we're several years down the road with this, it's so nice to have that shorthand where we can just, like, fall into the rhythm, and I can be like, yeah, it's been too long since I had a hug. I never wanted hugs again. Super, like, avoidant person here is like, get away from me, get off me, don't touch me. I am like, oh, I too, as a mammal, I also want a hand squeeze, or sometimes I do need a hug, or I do need a little cry, and I needed to be okay with needing that kind of contact nutrition. It was like a huge inner peace for me to develop enough trust and safeness around it. Now that we have this clear understanding, something like shared rhythm keeps us tracking each other, even when we're in two totally different parallel tracks. It's like, okay, it feels like time to come together again, because it's like, you could call it intuition, but it's not. It's years and years of tracking and attunement and work that makes it now feel and look quite effortless. But I would say shared rhythm is the glue that's keeping us together while we have so many plates spinning at this time of year. Thanks for asking.
So good. And something that I love, that I just, like, want to pull out of that is, I think we need to hear again and again, is that it does take time. We're so often like, okay, how am I going to fix this thing in 37 seconds or less? And that's a lot of what we're talking about. It takes time. It takes time to know your own nuances, to know somebody else's nuances. And as things shift, like, it takes time to kind of, for me, as a person with a lot of hypervigilance, like, I know how to track. trust. But tracking and attuning are actually two different things. And so, unlearning some of the like hypervigilance that I brought to that and learning some of the like flow that is available. I think it takes some time, and it's actually beautiful. Like I would say it's been maybe 3 years. My entire life has changed in that time. It seemed really slow, but also 3 years is not a long time, right? To change
Right.
how your base attachment to the world around you.
Totally. Can I actually also say, though, that so one thing we haven't really talked about that is figures quite prominently in the book is an analysis of power. Power and rank, being able to power map a relationship. If you get that skill and you couple that with attachment, you couple that with contact nutrition and attunement, it can actually be really fast. You can suddenly be like, oh, I'm in a relationship of coercive control. Like, I did not know that. Or, oh, wait, this person is withholding to an extreme degree. Or, oh, wait, this person is not congruent. Or, oh, wait, this person is like actually consistently putting themselves, centering themselves as somehow victimized, when in every single way they are, this is a power over move, right? It can actually be really fast when you suddenly go, okay, well, I have accommodated their preference for this and this and this and this, and here I am. I'm like, still, it's like they look at me one time with kind eyes, it's like oxygen, because I haven't had it in 15 years or whatever. And you might actually find that once you get a framework and an analysis, and maybe I buried the lead here, but so much of attachment theory doesn't talk about power and rank and intersectionality. If you can't map the power dynamics in a relationship, attachment theory is going to keep you stuck and cycling for so many more years than you need to be. So many more years than you need to be. Because a lot of the problems, you can just actually kind of be like, no, I can't help but notice the pattern of the person predominantly in a down power position, am doing the vast majority of the labor and the, etc. I am provisioning the vast majority of the contact nutrition that's flowing in this relationship. And when I ask for the smallest thing, it's like this huge, bother or sacrifice, or it's a problem, or it creates conflict, etc. So my hope is that you will realize pretty quickly whether you've already been doing this for a long time in relationship, and like, this is not actually the problem. Earning secure attachment is not actually the problem. You have a power abuse problem in this relationship, or you have a unacknowledged power differential, and that's the problem. And then you can decide pretty quickly, do I feel like putting any more hours, days, weeks, or years of my life into helping this person see something that it is absolutely of their benefit to not see, or not acknowledge, not agree with, or is there something here where it's like, oh, I actually do have a receiving problem. Like, much of the book in the beginning is about how I was feeling pretty darn ready to divorce my husband, but I wanted to like put the cherry on top of like, I am a good person who knows about secure attachment. I've not only done all of the work in therapy and self-help and all of that, but I became certified pretty much so that I could be like, I tried everything and he's still an asshole, and so therefore we're divorcing. Well, dear Mara, dear listeners, as it turns out, I did have a bit of a receiving problem, and I was kind of a bitch sometimes, because my trauma created an attachment style that just was, really did not recognize safety and safeness, and had a hard time accepting safeness signals as trustworthy, and not the least because I was I'm with a cis man. It really did mean that he had to learn about power and be very willing to divest from it, not just understand it, recognize it, talk about it, apologize for it, whatever. You had to actually divest from it in so many different ways. That was the missing piece. Was having, an analysis of power and privilege and what divestment actually looks like and how much it relates to our sense of safety and security in a relationship, not to mention the world. So it can take time. It really can take a long time, and it did for me. And it's not just in romantic relationships. I live with my in-laws. And there's my kid who's extremely neurodivergent, has multiple different diagnoses. I can't get the contact. I don't have the kind of, warm, close, loving relationship across these two different neurotypes, me being like super neurotypical and him being super neurodivergent. It took me like 8 years to become the person I needed to be able to move in with my in-laws. I knew we needed to do this move 8 years ago. I just could not do it. I am now able to provision my relationship with my in-laws with a degree of contact nutrition that I just couldn't do 8 years ago, even though I was reading all the attachment books and I was, I kind of thought I knew a thing or two about a thing or two. But the actual practice of becoming a person who can presence secure attachment and can, tolerate and adapt to different needs and preferences for contact nutrition or less of it, that takes a long time. It really does. But it doesn't take that long to figure out if you're down power in a relationship and somebody else keeps insulating themselves from accountability. That actually doesn't take that long. But that's like the missing calculus, I think, in a lot of attachment theory books is like, but also this won't work if the person that you're in relationship with carries, quite a lot of identity power. I also think with insecure attachment, and this is like getting tangential, but I want to say this one thing because I feel like your listeners will get it. And I can say this as a recovering avoidant. There is an incredible amount of power in being an avoidant attacher, because you can't attach to absence. And so the person who is anxiously attached is like present, and trying to, do this work. And an avoidant attacher is giving nothing, right? It's giving absence. And that is like an ultimate power move. And so, you need to be able to accept that there's a level of power in stonewalling or, saying, I'm doing this, but actually your nervous system is incongruent with that. That's a power move. And that hopefully, I hope that especially all the sweet, anxious attachers out there and disorganized attachers out there who are like, I'm doing all the things and it's not working, will read my book and be like, hey, this is somebody. And like, again, I love avoidant attachers. I've been one myself. So I totally understand how we come to be that way. And I appreciate that, I appreciate our strengths. But if we're really being honest about power, there's a power differential if you're in a relationship where one person is more avoidant and the other person is more anxious. And very often, I would say, I would love to see a situation where I'm wrong, because that would be interesting to me. But in nearly every situation, it's like, no, that's a clear power move. Like, you can't claim to be in relationship, but not make your nervous system available. Like you just, that's an oxymoron.
Now that we're on this side quest, I do want to say that for everyone who's listening, one of the reasons that I very specifically love and almost exclusively recommend your work around attachment, Carmen, is because for those of us who are avoidant attachers, I find that the attachment community can be pretty harsh towards people who are more avoidantly attached. And what I love about your work is that I think you're very fair, but also you speak from your own experience and with so much love towards folks who are more avoidantly attached. And I think I just want to like put that plug in specifically because I think it's really important, especially when we're talking about something like contact nutrition, that people who have that experience and that kind of attachment leaning know that this is a place where you're not going to be diminished or, you know, made to feel badly about yourself, that your work really is, and I say this, I've said this so many times to people, that it's just so fair and it's so loving. And that's really, really important because especially for those of us who like want to be in loving relationship and are often attracted to folks who are more avoidantly attached, it's like, it's really important to, if you're trying to work that out, to have resources that are fair and just in that way. Because I think that this book is really important for folks who lean, you know, in an avoidant direction, and to be written in such a way that it is welcoming and safe for, or safe enough for folks is really important.
I have a tiny little, I do talk a little bit about attachment in the book, and it's in an appendix at the very end. And I do talk about, like, if you are trying to love someone who is more avoidantly attached, if you're trying to love somebody who is more anxiously attached, and I sort of talk a little bit about some of the benefits of it, like if you stick with it and it works out and you're both really trying. I love avoidantly attached people because, like, I can smell my own, right? So when people are sort of like coming with relationship questions, or they're coming into session with me, it's like, oh, I know this, and I love this about us. I love this about us, that we just want people to get their shit together and take care of their own stuff. Like, why, or whatever. Like, I do love this about us, that we value competence so highly, that we value work so highly, and that we think we're working in relationships constantly, even though we're missing the mark. I also feel so much tenderness for our shame that we feel underneath about our inadequacies and just all of that kind of stuff, right? I totally love that. But also, when we put the effort in to increasing our tolerance for vulnerability, for self-acknowledgement, for being with shame, for, allowing ourselves to be little mammals instead of like whatever armadillos are they marsupials, I don't know, but like littles, like it's like we can't quite place you. It's so beautiful because you will never find somebody who will work harder in a relationship to I love me. I'm like having a moment of like, yeah, man, I work hard. I will like take 8 years to become the person I need to move in with your parents who are, that kind of thing. And similarly, I feel the same way about, I used to have this like resentment for how like brazenly needy my partner was. And then I like read your book and I was like, this is so beautiful because it's articulating this like whole like revolution that I've had around the beauty of just like allowing your heart to be laid bare and to be like just this raw, palpable love. If you can if somebody who's like a very anxiously attached orientation can find that like sort of solid sense of self, you will never find a partner more like loyal and more attuned and more tender and, who's going to gas you up and be happier for you than you could possibly be for yourself when good things happen. Like, they're just the sweetest when they can settle and find their ground and attach to their own solid sense of self as much as to others, right? So, and I could go on disorganized attachment, bit of a blend of both, but people who identify as being more disorganized in their attachment, where they're kind of running both anxious and avoidant at the same time, when that person is able to rest in a sense of well-being and stability and safeness, and you can you will enlarge your capacity for life itself, the kind of adventure, the kind of experiences, the kind of when you ask yourself existentially, I'm like, am I getting what I wanted from this life, to feel beloved on the earth, as Raymond Carver would say in his poem? It's like, if you can stick with someone in their disorganized attachment and be on that journey with them and not need for them to be any different, but they can also actually rest in stability for little bits so that they can renew themselves and be present to other people. That is going to be, you're going to fit so much life into your relationship. You are going to live so many lives with this person. It's going to be so multifaceted. It's incredibly rewarding, right? You will learn so much about yourself and other people and the nature of life and the world. These things, as you say, though, it can take time, because it's an adventure for all parties. And as I said, my hope is that you will look at your relationship slightly differently and be able to take not very much time to ascertain that there's an unwillingness to look at power differential. But if there is a willingness, then you are in for the adventure of a lifetime, because now you can sustain, and you'll be able to sustain whatever's happening for us in the larger collapse scenario, not just in partnership, but in family and community, in transmitting your experience and wisdom and skills to the next generation. You need contact nutrition for all of it. Yeah. Made myself cry thinking about the people I love.
I love it. Oh, I love it so much. It's so good. It's like, it will change your life. Everybody who's listening, it will change your life. I'm so excited for you. I'm so excited. The way you teach about attachment, what I've learned from you so many times is just it's so fucking hopeful. It's so hopeful. It's so much this is who and how you are today, but almost, anything is possible, and we can change and grow and learn new skills and be with one another in different ways. And it is just really incredible. And so I want to know where we can find all of the things, and we have to wait for a little while for your book to come out. And so I'm wondering if you have a one thing that we can practice in between now and then.
Oh, I mean, I think whatever is the one thing that you heard that you're like, ooh, that piques my interest. It's not rocket science. This isn't you. It's if something about vocal prosody, you're like, I wish she had said more about that. Literally, it's just what you think it is. It's having emotional resonance. It could also be taking singing lessons. It could also just be literally not just giving your neighbor at the mailbox a nod, but saying hello. It literally could just be, So I think whichever of the 5, kind eyes, vocal prosody, safe touch, shared rhythm, and gesture behaviors, whatever makes you curious about it, literally just follow your curiosity, because that's going to tell you a lot about what your little mammal needs. Follow that curiosity. Anything that you could, if you're like, I don't know, safe touch, I feel drawn to it, but also averse to it. Well, do you like knitting? Do you like weaving? Do you like working with your hands in the dirt? This is all safe touch. This is a form of contact nutrition. It doesn't have to be with other humans. That's another thing. You can contact nutrition as an animist myself. hear me when I say you don't have to start with humans. They're probably the hardest. So go with your pets, go with the trees, go with the soil, go with, your favorite walking path that you go on, go with the ocean, go with the mountain. You can practice presence and contact nutrition with anyone, human or more than human, with your ancestors, right? Between now and then, that's what I would do. It's like,
Great.
follow your craving. What are you craving? In terms of actually getting the book, it's for pre-order right now. You can get it at carmenspagnola.com. It's called How to Connect, Build Strong Bonds and Deep Connections Through Contact Nutrition. And the little sub-tagline is, no matter your attachment style, trauma history, or neurotype. It's kind of a sell them what they want, give them what they need book, right? It's like, hey, here's a simple relationship rescue book for anybody who doesn't, it's for people who don't want to go to therapy and the people who love them. You're going to get into it and be like, whoa, she's like really getting into this power stuff. It's like, that's right. We'll talk about why resting bitch face is okay for some people and not for others, or less okay for others. So, for instance, for the white men who were reading it, it's like, bitch face is not for you. And you will learn why. So yeah, I really hope that people will pre-order it, because as a small independent publishing house, it really makes a big difference to know how big the initial print run should be. So knowing who's going to buy it ahead of it means that we will better be able to, when it comes out in stores in November, right in the busy holiday shopping season, we will be less likely to run out of copies, because people are like, oh, I'll just wait till it's in stores, and then we don't have enough, right? So it'd be great to just tell us if you are intending to purchase a copy or two, because honestly, it will help you identify if you're in a subpar relationship. And please, come on, girl, I know 3 or 4 people in subpar relationships, so just go ahead and buy the book club amount of 5, and you'll get a 10% discount. Just do it.
Well, because this is the podcast about needs, I do just want to thank you for telling us what you need as it relates to pre-orders. It is really important. And so hear that, right? It's awesome when people tell us exactly what they need. And I hope you all grab the book. I've gotten a chance to read it. It's really fucking great. And I'm so excited for all of us. Yay. Carmen, thank you so much for being here with us today. This was so awesome. It was such a delight to have you here.
Thank you so much, Mara. Your support just means the world to me, and I really mean it when I say the praise of the praiseworthy. People, you're an amazing teacher. You're an incredible space holder. Your book is fantastic. It really, I do feel that our books should be shoulder to shoulder on the shelf. So thank you so much for having me on the show. It's been a total pleasure.
Thanks for listening to Even Here, Even Now with Mara Glatzel. If you want my support in learning to stay by your own side and nourish your needs, dance on over to maraglatzel.com/quiz to take my quiz to figure out what you need right now and receive my best tools for how to meet those needs with a greater sense of ease and confidence. If you love today's show, please leave us a rating or review wherever you subscribe to this podcast. It helps more than you know. And as always, permission loves company. If there's a human in your life that you think can benefit from this conversation, I would be so grateful if you shared it with them. Thank you. See you next time.